So I remember the year was 2016, and I just found out that I was pregnant. And obviously, you're excited, and I'm just like, oh, healthy pregnancy. And I remember going for a jog, and I came back from the jog, and I was bleeding. And of course, if you're pregnant and you're bleeding, it's just like, what is happening? You obviously think of the worst. And at that time, it was still very early, didn't have a midwife or anything. And I remember calling a midwife, and I'm just like in panic mode. I can tell you that since then, a few weeks, every time I was just stricken with fear that I'm going to be losing the baby. And I think that's when it clicked that I'm actually not in control of what's happening in my body. I'm not in control. I have never prayed so much in my life before. And it was hard for me because I'm such a control freak. I think for me, the fact that I couldn't control, do you know what I mean? You can read as many books as you want, you can do as much as you want. But the fact of the matter was, God is in control. And I just told myself, if I'm going to carry this baby, it will all be God's doing. Fast forward later, I have a baby. You're still terrified to some extent because you fear, will this baby be healthy? And a year later, I remember fainting, collapsing on the floor, and being rushed to hospital and getting the news that basically I had miscarried and I had a ectopic pregnancy. Now this is a different pregnancy. We were pregnant again. I think when something like that happens, you ask God a lot of questions. You ask God why. I don't understand. And I think there is temptation, which is fair when you mourn, when you are sad, and when you are grieving, to almost be very disappointed with God. To some extent, you don't trust God. And I can really say that in that moment, it was all by God's grace that I think that situation it helped me understand that God is sovereign. And I don't say that with ease. I didn't just wake up one night and I was just like, oh, God is sovereign. But in all of that, I think for me, it helped me understand that God is in control, whether good, whether bad happens. And for me, the biggest grace was that even after that, I was still able to praise God. I think it's such a reminder that we live in a fallen world, we live in a sinful world. We're going to lose people are going to die, but it's in those moments, it's in those trials, I think that can shake your faith. And some of us, it takes a while to get out of that rut. But I just remember thinking, God, you are sovereign, you are great. I don't understand it. I don't understand why I had to go through what it is that I went through. But I know that to some extent you are trying to work through me. I'm trying to grow in some way. And I know that because for the longest time I really struggle with prayer. Because I want to be in control. So for me to kneel on my knees and say, God, I need you, and for me to actually accept the fact that I am weak is such a difficult thing to do. And I realized in the midst of that happening that I think you can either be really crippled with fear, and everything scares you, and you can either then not trust God. And now that I'm pregnant again, beginning of the pregnancy, it's even after I've gone through everything I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant again. What am I going to do? Is this pregnancy also going to carry on? And I had to remind myself, and I'm just like, you being scared is not going to help everything. It's not going to help anything. And you being crippled with fear to some extent was me not trusting God, was me not trusting that God is faithful, was me not trusting that that whether I lose a baby, whether the baby carries to full term, that I need to still praise God in the midst of that. So I think now where I am, I think I would encourage Christians. I think we know that we're going to go through suffering. We obviously pray that we don't, but I think when we do, God is there. God is there. I think we're tempted to blame God, and because we don't understand. but ultimately it's also because we are not in control. I think it's hard to, like I said, to accept that you are actually not in control. So that's been a very sobering experience, I think, for me.